Hello, New Mexico, and welcome to another episode of Around the Roundhouse, a podcast featuring the policies, politics, and personalities of the land of enchantment from the Roundhouse and beyond. My name is Daniel Chacón, and I'm the state government reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our guest this week is New Mexico State Auditor Joseph Maestas, a civil engineer by profession and a fellow norteño. Mr. Maestas is a longtime public servant, having served as a city councilor in both Española and Santa Fe, mayor of Española, and a member of the Public Regulation Commission. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy, Mr. Maestas. Thank you for joining us.
Muy buenos días a todos. Thank you, Daniel, for having me.
Mr. Maestas, as I just mentioned, you've served in a number of different elective offices. Which one has been the most challenging and which one has been the most rewarding?
I think the most challenging was being mayor of Española. You know, it's one of the most intergovernmentally complex areas in the country. It's a city that's landlocked by two tribal governments. It's split between two counties. So that was very, very challenging from an intergovernmental standpoint. I think the most rewarding was my current job, being the state auditor, serving as a representative only of the people, accountable only to the people, to safeguard taxpayer money across the state of New Mexico. So I think my current job is the most rewarding.
Well, give us kind of a rundown of what the office of the state auditor or what the state auditor does.
Yes, well, you know, the office of the state auditor is one of seven agencies within the executive branch. I guess 8 if you count the PRC. It's a constitutionally enabled office, and it's gratifying to serve as the state's state auditor and chief financial watchdog, as my great-grandfather was a constitutional delegate, so he had a hand in the formation of our Constitution. His name was Jose Amado Lucero. So I'm really gratified to serve in that capacity. You know, being born in Santa Fe, raised in Santa Cruz, I come from a family of educators and military veterans. I grew up on a small farm in a big family, 4 girls, 2 boys, 1 bathroom. So you can imagine how challenging that was. But I think I've really dedicated my whole life to public service. You know, my dad was a public school teacher, and I saw how, even though perhaps the benefits, maybe are not there, obviously teachers and other public servants need to be paid adequately, but I still felt like there was honor, I think, in serving the public. And so I spent over 30 years in federal civil service. And as you mentioned, about 14 years as a locally elected official. And here as state auditor, I'm on my 3rd year, approaching re-election. So a lot has changed. Everywhere I go, I meet just wonderful people in New Mexico, and it gratifies me to meet these people, especially the ones that have benefited from my service indirectly or directly.
Mr. Maestas, what motivated you to get involved in politics in the first place?
Well, I was in a situation in Española where I witnessed the government really wasn't working for the people. It wasn't responsive. It wasn't ethical. And I felt like, hey, are you going to complain, sit on the couch and complain, or are you going to do something about it? And so it was that kind of motivation that kind of got me to throw my hat in the ring for city council in Española. And I had only been back only for about 3 months. So I had an identity crisis because I had left the state for 16 years, and it took me a while to return back to Española 19 years later. So no one really knew who I was, but they knew my family. But in that short time frame of a municipal election, I was able to overcome my identity crisis and articulate my agenda for the city, and I ended up winning. And I've been in politics really ever since then. And I think that the important thing is to carry yourself with modesty, knowing who your constituency is at all times. And I think that has always stuck with me in how I carry myself as an elected official in all the various capacities. And so you have to really serve with honor, uh, and I think be humble, knowing the constituency that you represent.
Mr. Maestas, the 60-day session seems like a little bit of a distant memory, but I bumped into you at the Roundhouse occasionally, and I believe you were making a pretty strong case for your budget. May I ask if you got the budget that you requested, and if the office of the state auditor has the resources that it needs to do its job?
So I'm really fortunate, to be here. We've known each other, Daniel, for quite a long time. But in terms of the outcome of this session, I think it's mixed from my perspective. I've been, over the course of the last 2.5 years, I've been doing my level best to educate the appropriators and lawmakers about what the office does and some of the challenges that we're facing. And I feel like it's fallen on deaf ears because I asked for about a 15% plus increase in my budget, and it was completely denied. I was given a flat budget, and so that was disappointing. But we had some other legislative victories in this last 60 days. But I can tell you that we are strapped for resources. The accounting industry, the public accounting industry, is contracting. It's putting a lot of downward pressure on my office, and we really don't have the resources to respond and deal with the challenges of this contracting industry, which would force my office into doing more to assist with providing audits of all public entities across the state.
So how are you handling, the duties and responsibilities of the office if you don't have the resources that you need?
It's very difficult. I mean, this office, I believe in 2021, was given an unfunded mandate to work with the district courts and review annual financial reports for conservatorships. As many people know, there are vulnerable adults that are unable to manage their financial assets, and the district court designates a conservator. And so this was an unfunded mandate. We weren't given the necessary resources, and what that did was it really pulled limited resources away from mission critical positions in our financial audit division. That's the engine of the office that reviews all these audit reports and actually does audits of a select number of entities. And so this is a terrible development. And I just need to continue I call it a crusade, to really, educate these appropriators and lawmakers about some of the challenges that we're facing, and it's only going to get worse.
Mr. Maestas, although it didn't gain traction during the session, a Republican senator proposed a DOGE-like office for New Mexico, which you said would overlap with your office's constitutional mandate, would result in unnecessary expenditure of taxpayer money. Is the idea DOA?
Well, if you ask the senator, he'll tell you no. But I received that development in the legislative session with kind of mixed emotions. It makes me wonder, am I really getting across what my office does and what the challenges are that we're facing? And I think the conclusion is no. If a prominent senator wants to propose a DOGE-like office, which again, as you said, would significantly duplicate the function of this office. We do investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. We do use technology to streamline our operations. We have subpoena power to compel, public entities to provide information that we request. And so it's unfortunate, but I think that this senator, shining a light on the need to really further investigate fraud, waste, and abuse, that's music to my ears. And so I think there's an opportunity here to work with the senator and achieve certain objectives that we've been attempting. As an example, as you know, state government agencies, only certain agencies have inspectors general. These are independent offices that investigate, departments that they're embedded with. We have proposed an expansion of additional inspectors general in other agencies that don't have them that represent a high financial risk. We are also proposing the creation of a statewide inspector general, and that would be attached to this office, as would the other inspectors general that are currently embedded in state agencies. And we've seen at the federal level, the current presidential administration really does not place an emphasis on investigating fraud, waste, and abuse, as this administration has fired federal inspectors general that were supposed to be independent from political interference. And so I think that really places the onus on state government and my office to really, really do everything we can to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent in an accountable and transparent manner and not rely on the feds.
Mr. Maestas, how often do you get reports of fraud, waste, and abuse? I mean, is it on a daily basis? I mean, I don't know if you have any numbers that you can provide, but does it happen on a regular basis?
I'm a numbers guy, you know it, right? Based on the total number of active cases that we have right now, we're averaging about one a day that come in. And if anyone has any knowledge of apparent fraud, waste, and abuse, they can go to our website. On the landing page in the upper right corner, there's a big red button. They click on that button and it takes them to this intake form, and it's all digital. And so we need enough information to open a case. But right now we have well over 300 active cases of fraud, waste, and abuse. And, many high profile criminal prosecutions have started as a complaint in this office. And so we take that role very seriously. We have a special investigations division that's comprised of a cadre of certified fraud examiners. And that's all they do is investigate allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse. If anyone out there has any knowledge of apparent fraud, waste, and abuse, state statute requires that they notify my office. And so this is a very serious part of what we do. We have these walls between our fraud examiners and the rest of the office. We've, as you've heard, we've had some high profile cases like Western New Mexico University. Our investigation found, massive transactions of travel and procurement that were not in accordance with their own policies and procedures, as an example. So we're very active, and unfortunately, it's an unfortunate form of job security in that folks all across the state that work for public entities are making poor decisions with respect to managing taxpayer dollars.
Well, Mr. Maestas, I don't want to step on your toes, but folks can also contact me at dchacon@sfnewmexican.com if they want to report any incidents of fraud, waste, or abuse. Speaking of some high-profile cases, I wanted to ask you what's happening with the city of Santa Fe, which has been in the news quite a bit over its audits and its financial standing.
Well, the city of Santa Fe, as you know, was behind several fiscal years on their audits. They hired an accounting firm that's on our approved list to assist them in kind of getting their finance department in order, while a different accounting firm was doing all these backlogged annual financial compliance audits. But I think, to the city's credit, they are now current on all their audits. However, as I understand, and I can't confirm this, that based on the current findings in the most recent audit, which would be fiscal year 24, that the city had significant deficiencies and material weaknesses, so much so that the Department of Finance and Administration still restricted the city from accessing their capital outlay. So they have to continue working with, excuse me, another fiscal agent, which in this case is I think it's the North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. I also am really happy to report that, if a public entity is not compliant with their audits and they want to apply for water fund funding through New Mexico Finance Authority, they can't do it. And as you know, the Nichols Dam in Santa Fe required a lot of repairs, and based on my communications with New Mexico Finance Authority, because the city was not financially compliant, their applications were denied, and I believe they made 3 or 4 consecutive applications in different years to request funding for Nichols Dam. And I think, as was recently reported by the city, I believe they received just over $5 million. It's a combo loan and grant for Nichols Dam. And, this is a very serious project that has public safety and drinking water implications. And so I think the city has done a great job to catch up, but they have work to do in addressing those material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. As you know, they were also kind of slammed in that they were vulnerable again to vendor fraud. They had experienced vendor fraud, I think, in fiscal year 2023, same circumstances. So there's still more work that needs to be done, but I think they're making a lot of progress.
Mr. Maestas, you recently ordered a special audit of Mora County. For folks who haven't been following the story, can you kind of give us an explanation of why you ordered that special audit?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Somebody, I'm a norteño, and I love northern New Mexico. I love the culture. I grew up all around it. So when things like this happen to a northern New Mexico community, a close-knit community like Mora County, it kind of pains me, but yet the reality is I am the state auditor, and I was compelled to take action in designating Mora County for this special audit because we have been receiving some really, incredible complaints from inside the county. The county had attempted in 2023 to designate themselves for a special audit to look into some of the irregularities, procurement irregularities and expenditures, but they never moved on that audit. And so we had been trying to work with them to follow through. They even signed a contract with an accounting firm, but nothing was done. And I think the real significant development was a forensic auditor that was hired by the county to help them prepare for their next financial audit discovered $2.7 million in unaccounted for funds. And so it was then that we decided to step in because Mora County received $41.1 million in this zero interest loan to help repair bridges, roads, culverts that were impacted by the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire and subsequent debris flows. And so we're concerned about the capability and the capacity of Mora County to manage that $41.1 million. It's safe. It's safely invested in the local government investment pool under the auspices of our state treasurer. It's earned about $500,000 in interest. And so I think a lot of people out there can rest assured that 41.1 million and interest is still safely invested. However, the projects that were identified back in 2023, and there was about 5 projects, very comprehensive, were identified with a full cost estimate, and they have not been constructed. They've experienced fits and starts in the engineering part of these projects. The Department of Finance Administration is responsible for administering this loan. The way this loan works is there was SB 5 passed, I think, in 2023. It appropriated $100 million of zero interest loans, and Mora County was successful in getting 41.1 million of the 100 million. And so it's already earmarked, projects have been identified, but because of consequential delays, there's been subsequent debris flows and additional damage to these areas that were earmarked for improvements and repair and replacement of roads, bridges, and culverts. And so now the cost is escalating for these projects, and the 41.1 million may not even be enough. So there's a lot of challenges right now. We are going to meet next Wednesday with county officials to discuss the scope of the special audit. We hope to expedite it, but I want to clarify something you mentioned, Daniel, in your article. You said that the special audit would potentially delay these projects, and we see no no opportunities for delay. They can move forward with these projects provided that they spend them correctly. Now, here's the thing: is these projects have to be FEMA approved, and so the proceeds from the 41.1 million is used to fast track these projects to advance the payment. And so if Mora County, let's say, builds one project, they repair a road and culverts, they pay for it with the loan proceeds. And then when FEMA reimburses the county, then the county pays that part of the loan back to the state. And this is a general fund, I believe, a general fund loan. So these funds are being tied up unnecessarily. These projects need to move forward. I think the governor just had a town hall in Las Vegas that basically said, "Hey, look down south. They're moving on all those projects to mitigate damages from those fires. What's going on, San Miguel County, Mora County?" And so I think that the governor made it clear that she really wants to see these projects expedited.
Well, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Maestas. We'll see if there are delays or not. Only time will tell. Mr. Maestas, what are some of the trends you've identified in governmental accounting in New Mexico? It's what I'm hearing is that there's a CPA talent pipeline shortage.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, we are facing a full-blown workforce crisis. It's a national crisis in that most of the baby boomers that currently hold CPA licenses, 75% of them were eligible to retire in 2020. We're seeing a lack of interest in accounting. We're also seeing students start in accounting but leave it while they're in college. There's also another impediment. If you need to sit for the CPA exam, you need 150 hours of college transcript hours. And we all know it takes 120 to get your baccalaureate, but the additional 30 has no requirements. There's no requirements for accounting, nothing. And so, if you're a poor, starving student like we all were, do you want to go to college another year after you get your bachelor's? You want to start making money. And so this 150-hour requirement is a major stumbling block, and it's causing the reduction in interest on the part of minorities to pursue the field of accounting. And so as the state auditor, I am doing everything I can to stimulate that pipeline of aspiring accountants and CPAs. I've already had meetings with all the flagship universities. There's a role for higher education in terms of them needing to transform the curriculum and start integrating the potential of technology and accounting, like AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain learning, data analytics. There is legislation proposed, is still pending at the federal level, to incorporate accounting into the science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM umbrella. And this would pave the way for federal grants for K through 12 students. And I think we ought to be pursuing the same thing, our own kind of statewide STEM, and support accounting like we do support other fields. And so this is very, very important. Look, we live in a free market economy. Could you imagine if we don't have enough accountants to ensure that we can trust in the numbers, that we can make informed investment decisions, that we can be assured that taxpayer monies are being spent in an accountable and transparent way? So this is a significant problem, and I'm doing everything I can to get it addressed.
Mr. Maestas, I wanted to switch over to one of my favorite topics, which is politics in New Mexico. The midterms are obviously just sort of right around the corner, and the race for governor is already off to a robust start. Give us your assessment of the Democratic candidates seeking the nomination for governor, and will you be endorsing anyone?
Well, I think we know nationally the Democratic Party, I think, is adrift. There's a lot of infighting and finger pointing. I think we're like one of the few solid blue states in the Southwest. And so I think Democratic Party unity is critical. And I know there was a departure, I think, of the treasurer for the statewide party, which is troubling to me. I think now is the time for the party to coalesce around a message that resonates with the middle class and the people of New Mexico. And so we still have a lot of work to do, even that we can't rest on our laurels as a blue state. We need to really get organized under this new leadership that was just elected. And there's going to be new ward chairs and county chairs all across the state. So we have brand new leadership at all levels within the party. But so now it's the time for us to really get serious and rally around the principles, I think, that have made the Democratic Party a great party. But as you know, in my position, it's a nonpartisan, independent position. However, I am elected and I run as a partisan candidate. Our party needs to get with it. That's my message to the party. In terms of the candidates for governor, I think we saw President Trump make inroads in some of the northern New Mexico counties that have been steadfastly and traditional Democratic or Democrat. And so I think this could be a test in terms of how far towards the middle the voters want candidates to go. I think Deb Haaland is a progressive, and Sam Bregman is really more towards the middle. He's got a much more focused message, being the current DA for Bernalillo County. And so I think that crime and prosecuting crime and violent criminals, I think, is still an ongoing issue, not just in Albuquerque, but in other parts of the state. And so we'll see how DA Bregman's message resonates, and that's going to be a true test in the case of the voters, whether they want someone more moderate or if they want someone more progressive. I know there's other candidates, but look, Deb Haaland, she's always been on the right side of history. She was the first Native American to chair our party. I believe she was the first Native American to represent District 1, the Albuquerque area, in Congress. She was the first Native American Department of Interior secretary. And, I think, people want to look at substance, but you have to look at history. And, history may be on her side. We'll see if she can carry over that momentum from all those trailblazing positions that she's held. So I'm kind of like waiting. I won't be endorsing any candidate. I can't endorse any candidates as state auditor. I believe my legal counsel tells me I can use different titles. But in terms of the governor's race, I think it's too soon for me to really weigh in at all. I will disclose that Deb Haaland did ask me to introduce her during her statewide tour. I introduced her at the Española event, which was very well attended. So I will state that I did participate in that part of her campaign.
All right, Mr. Maestas, you mentioned earlier that you're kind of toward the end of your term as state auditor. What does the future hold for you? I mean, maybe governor, maybe lieutenant governor. I mean, what does the future hold for you?
Well, I think, Daniel, you've watched the downward spiral that aging has taken on my face and my hair. I'm losing my hair. It's getting gray. Time is not on my side, but I do want to assure all your viewers and listeners that I'm still very highly motivated to serve. And, would I like to serve in a higher capacity? Yes. But right now, I want to be the very best state auditor that has ever served in our state's history. In terms of my future aspirations, my plan is to run for re-election and serve the people of New Mexico for another term as their state auditor. After that, quién sabe, we'll see what happens.
Well, I got to compliment you, because even though you may have a little bit more gray hair and I don't know if a few more wrinkles since we first met, but you're a pretty active. You're an active guy. Are you still participating in triathlons?
I am, and I participated last year in a triathlon in Socorro. It was a sprint triathlon, and I had not competed in 5 years, and I was able to podium. I came in third in my age group, but then again, I'm in that age group right now where it's not so much a matter of your athletic prowess. It's more of attrition of my peers. And so a lot of my peers are really just not there anymore, but I'm still cross training. I bike, I weight train, I swim, I run. And I believe it's just critical for me. It's a good kind of a mental health thing too. And I think my office will tell you that, I do go to the gym frequently, but I come to work every day ready to serve the people of New Mexico. And I think doing those hobbies, I think really helps me with my energy levels and my attitude. So it's something that I've done for many, many years, and I'm going to continue doing it. The wheels get a little wobbly, but they haven't come off yet. So I'm gonna keep doing that.
Right on, right on. Well, thank you so much for your service, Mr. Maestas. Is there anything, and thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything that I'm missing to ask you? Anything you want to add? Any topic that you think would be important for New Mexicans to know about?
Yes, I do want to mention one thing, and it was an accomplishment that we made in this last 60-day session. We sponsored for the second year in a row a bill to make law, an executive order that Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham kept from the Martinez administration. It was Executive Order 2013-006. So it's been in place, for 12 years now? But what that executive order does is it requires any public entity that's received capital outlay, they have to be financially compliant and up to date on their audits in order to access their awarded capital outlay, among other things. And the governor's in her final term, this is executive policy, it's not law. And so we felt, and we made our first attempt last year to make that executive order law, because I see that as a primary incentive for public entities to achieve and maintain financial compliance as a condition to not only access their awarded capital outlay, but it allows them to pursue new funding, like the water fund funding that I mentioned through New Mexico Finance Authority, like the Acequia Infrastructure Fund that's managed by the Interstate Stream Commission. And so we were successful, and this is our second attempt. We passed House Bill 493, the Public Finance Accountability Act. The sponsor was Cynthia Borrego, a representative from the Albuquerque area on the west side. It was a collaboration between Senate Majority Peter Wirth and the Department of Finance and Administration and some other folks. So it was kind of a collective effort, but for us to achieve making this executive order law after only 2 years, I think is a tremendous achievement. And the law actually, relative to the executive order, is much more flexible and gives public entities more opportunities to access their capital outlay. It gives them opportunities to challenge a decision by the granting agency and Department of Finance and Administration if they're not if the decision is not to allow them to access their capital outlay. They can appeal that decision. If they have significant deficiencies, they can provide a plan to address them. So House Bill 493, which is law now, provides many more opportunities for public entities to access funding and apply for new funding. So it's less punitive than the executive order, and I think it's much more flexible than the executive order.
And at the end of the day, it's a win for taxpayers. Would you agree?
Oh, it is now, we see this as a vital element in capital outlay reform, because I can tell you a good percentage of the 5 billion plus in unspent capital outlay is because it's being held up because of a lack of financial compliance by those entities that have received capital outlay. And that's the irony, is that, if you're non-compliant, you can apply for capital outlay and get it awarded. But if you remain non-compliant when it comes time to access it, you can't access it. So this is just going to add another, I think, important layer of accountability and transparency in how these funds are spent.
All right. Well, Mr. Maestas, again, thank you so much. It's always nice to spend time with you. So thank you again for joining us. And thank you to our listeners and our viewers for tuning into Around the Roundhouse. Join us every week as we talk to newsmakers in the political realm by subscribing to our podcast through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the latest developments, follow our coverage online at santafenewmexican.com, where you can also subscribe to our political newsletter, the Roundhouse Report. Until next time, I'm Daniel Chacón, and this has been Around the Roundhouse.